Elizabeth Taylor reveals the 7 Golden Age actors who were the worst in bed. In the final hours of her life, Elizabeth Taylor decided to tear back the velvet curtain of Hollywood's Golden Age. No longer concerned with fame, Oscars, or diamonds, she revealed the men behind the legend, men whose charm and power hid intimate catastrophes. The world worshipped them as gods, but behind closed doors they were human, flawed, and in some cases profoundly disappointing. Today, we explore the 7 Golden Age actors Elizabeth Taylor remembered as the worst in bed. This is a story of desire, heartbreak, and the shadows behind fame. Chapter 1. Eddie Fisher, the Cowardly Devotion. Eddie Fisher was a singer adored by millions, but in the bedroom, he was silent, obedient, and utterly unchallenging. After Elizabeth tragically lost her husband Mike Todd in 1958, she sought comfort. Eddie was there, loyal, attentive, and eager to please, but his submission became a quiet nightmare. Elizabeth didn't want to be worshipped like a queen. She wanted a partner who could match her fire. Eddie adored her, never dared to assert himself, never challenged her. Nights in Las Vegas were uneventful, intimacy reduced to rituals. "Did you like that?" he would ask, stripping every moment of spontaneity and passion. And when she fell for Richard Burton, Eddie didn't fight. He didn't rage. He cried. That helplessness, that passive surrender killed desire. For Elizabeth, Eddie's catastrophe was boredom masquerading as devotion. He left her unfulfilled, lonely in the arms of someone who feared life as much as he feared losing her. Chapter 2. Richard Burton, fire drenched in alcohol. If Eddie was still water, Richard Burton was a storm. Twice her husband, twice her lover, twice her undoing, Burton was a man of raw passion and intellect, but also alcohol and self-destruction. Publicly, they were Hollywood royalty, sparkling under the media's gaze. Privately, vodka drowned his vitality. Burton's brilliance became his tragedy. Nights that promised ecstasy ended in drunken impotence. Elizabeth craved his force, his power, his ability to ignite the fires of love. But she found only the weight of a bottle and the stench of despair. And yet, Burton's failures were complicated. He loved deeply, desperately, sometimes too much. But alcohol turned him into a man unable to perform, leaving Elizabeth with diamonds instead of desire. Morning after morning, he would charm the world, oblivious to the void he left behind, leaving her with the painful truth. Love could be wasted in the most intimate of places. Chapter 3. Frank Sinatra, the Cold Master. Old Blue Eyes, the golden voice, the man who could silence a room with a single note, whose presence alone commanded attention. To the public, Frank Sinatra was charming, magnetic, untouchable. But Elizabeth Taylor, lying beneath the velvet glamour of Hollywood, saw a different man entirely. A predator wrapped in silk and charisma. Sinatra didn't seek connection. He didn't yearn to share love. He sought control, the subtle domination of desire itself. In the bedroom, he was surgical. Every movement, every touch, every sigh was calculated, precise, designed not to pleasure, but to glorify himself. Elizabeth became a ghost beside him, invisible to the man whose fame and ego filled the room. She remembered nights when he would enter her hotel suite, the faint smell of cologne preceding him, every step measured, every gesture deliberate. He wouldn't embrace her with warmth, wouldn't look into her eyes. Instead, he would adjust his reflection in the mirror, checking his profile, his hair, his suit, even mid-intimacy. Elizabeth felt like a stage prop in his performance, a beautiful backdrop for his own obsession. And worse, the rumors haunted her. Rumors that he forced her to abort his child. Whether true or not, the possibility left a cold scar in her memory, a chilling reminder of the cruelty that could hide behind the Hollywood spotlight. Sinatra's mastery wasn't incompetence. It was perfection in self-centeredness. He demonstrated to Elizabeth that a man could sing the sweetest love songs, charm the world, and yet behave like a tyrant behind closed doors. She shivered, recalling how even the smallest display of autonomy on her part, a gesture, a word, a glance, was often met with indifference or subtle control. Sinatra's catastrophe was not failure but omnipresent dominance. The cruel paradox of a man whose love was a gift he never intended to give. Chapter 4: Warren Beatty, Perfection as Torture. Then came Warren Beatty. Handsome, charming, every feature sculpted, every movement rehearsed. The world saw a golden boy of Hollywood, the ideal lover, the man every woman envied. But for Elizabeth, intimacy with Beatty was a different story, an act of cold precision, a performance with her as an unwilling audience. He approached her as if operating a finely tuned machine. Every kiss, every caress, every sigh was calculated. Nothing spontaneous, nothing wild. He didn't touch her to please her. He touched her to impress, to maintain his flawless persona. Elizabeth's fire, her intensity, her desire, met his control and perfection, and found nothing to ignite against. She remembered lying in his arms, watching him admire himself in the mirror, adjusting the angle of his reflection, checking the flex of his muscles, all while her body became merely a prop, a living stage set. Sex became mechanical, ritualized, hollow. Beatty's catastrophe lay not in incompetence but in his inability to connect. To Elizabeth, it was worse than any abuse or neglect. It was a form of emotional starvation. She longed for unpredictability, for the collision of passion and personality. But with Beatty, everything was polished, rehearsed, and void of humanity. She often left encounters feeling exhausted yet untouched, her brilliance reduced to a supporting role in his performance of perfection. Chapter 5: Marlon Brando, the Mad Scientist. Marlon Brando was chaos incarnate. If Beatty was a mirror, reflecting vanity and perfection, Brando was a labyrinth, confusing, dangerous, and mesmerizing. His genius intertwined with madness, making intimacy with him a psychological experiment. Elizabeth remembered nights in Georgia, during the filming of Reflections in a Golden Eye, when Brando would enter her room silent, carrying only his unpredictability. He whined, growled, ate at odd moments, and asked bizarre, intrusive questions. He tested boundaries, blurred lines between love and terror, and forced Elizabeth into a mental maze where she could never anticipate his next move. He didn't act out of cruelty but curiosity. He sought to understand, dissect, and dominate, not her body, but her mind. And the effect on Elizabeth was profound. She felt vulnerable, exposed, and bewildered in a way no other man had ever caused. Brando's catastrophe wasn't incompetence or arrogance. It was the destabilizing brilliance of a man so untethered that love became a puzzle she could never solve. Elizabeth shivered as she recalled moments of fleeting tenderness. Just enough to give hope, just enough to confuse. But the next instant, he would withdraw, cold and detached, leaving her reeling. Sex with Brando was never about pleasure. It was a psychological experiment, a game of intellect and dominance that left her with invisible scars she carried for decades. Chapter 6: Rock Hudson, the Perfect Lie. Rock Hudson, the quintessential Hollywood hero, handsome, tall, flawless. To the public, he embodied masculinity, desire, and idealized romance. But behind closed doors, Elizabeth discovered the devastating truth. His masculinity was a carefully constructed mask. Hudson performed in the bedroom as he did on screen. Precise, rehearsed, polished. He didn't desire her. He played the role society demanded of him. Elizabeth felt coldness, hollowness, and isolation, a painful reminder that the man before her could never truly belong. His body was present, but his heart and soul were elsewhere, trapped in a world that demanded he live a lie. She remembered nights when intimacy seemed possible, only to realize he was distant, mechanical, and painfully aware of the performance he had to maintain. Elizabeth was left feeling like a partner in a production, a co-star in a drama that only he controlled. Hudson's tragedy wasn't cruelty. It was the heartbreaking isolation of a man forced to deny his own truth, leaving Elizabeth alone in the space where love should have existed. Chapter 7: Nicky Hilton, the Original Scar. Finally, Nicky Hilton. The first love, the first heartbreak, the man whose cruelty would shape Elizabeth's understanding of intimacy forever. On their wedding night aboard the Queen Mary, Elizabeth discovered a man indifferent, selfish, and brutal. He treated sex as domination, using violence and neglect to assert control. Elizabeth endured humiliation, physical pain, and emotional devastation. From drunken outbursts to cruel slaps, he shattered her innocence at just 18 years old. Nicky Hilton's catastrophe was the blueprint for the rest of her relationships. A pattern of power, control, and heartbreak she would revisit with every subsequent partner. Elizabeth's memory of Hilton haunted her life. He was not merely a bad husband. He was the original trauma, the first demonstration that love could be used as a weapon, that desire could become domination, and that beauty and fame offered no protection against cruelty. Elizabeth Taylor, the queen with violet eyes, owned the world yet never found a man to match her fire. She endured betrayal, indifference, manipulation, and cruelty. Behind the diamonds, the cameras, and the applause, she was just a woman longing for connection, for a partner who could love her soul rather than her fame. In the end, she found peace only in the memory of Mike Todd, the one complete love untouched by cruelty. Her life, full of passion and heartbreak, stands as a testament to the dangers of illusion, the pain of desire, and the human cost behind the glitter of Hollywood. If you want more untold Hollywood secrets, shocking confessions, and stories behind the legends, subscribe and hit the bell. Some stories are darker than you could ever imagine.